and Universal Consciousness with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix. I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin. My co-host is Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. Our producer is Deborah Franco. And you're listening to Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio, Studio B. Our guest today is Kevin J. Briggs, and he's an author who specializes in consciousness and the connection to ETs and UFOs. He has a recently published book titled Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey, which covers 57 years of his experiences of ET contact and UFO connections. He speaks at many groups of UFO and ET enthusiasts. He's written articles. He's been in Truth Magazine. His book's been mentioned in Psychic News. And he's been at the free conference in Miami on consciousness and contact experiences. So we're real excited to have him back. We had him here May of last year, and we're here for an update. But before I bring him on, I'd like to bring on Dr. Sasha. Come over here, sweetheart. What would you like to say?
Well, I just want to know the hottest, what's most salient in your mind, the most interesting things that's crossed your brain recently.
Right, so we're going to start. This is a new audience for your information. So we're going to start at the beginning, and you're going to tell us your story, and then we'll go into some Q&A. So welcome to our show, Kevin. Welcome back.
Hi, Janet. Thank you for inviting me. I feel honoured that you've asked me back so soon. Things have been moving forward for me from my first book, which was, as you mentioned, Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey. I've now just had a second book published with two co-authors, Tap into Universal Energy. And I'm also appearing on a regular TV show now, weekly live on out of Tampa, with a local TV studio, with my two co-authors, Melissa Kennedy and Edgar Mitchell. So things have moved forward from me from just that short period of time. So quite exciting. So if I just briefly go over my so go on.
Yes, please start from the beginning.
Okay, then I'll start from the beginning for those of your listeners who haven't heard my story before. It started when I was about 3 years old. My mother engaged a photographer to come and take some photographs for the family album. I was duly washed and cleaned and hairbrushed. When the photographer came, he lifted me up onto the dining room table for an elevated position for the photographs. And from that position, not only did I see that obviously I was higher up in the room, but I saw the perspective that I was conscious, and I was conscious again in a physical body. And that was my first recollection of being conscious at the age of 3. My next interaction or understanding was when I was about 8 years old. I was taking a bath at home. I was in the bath on my own, and I felt a change in the vibrational frequency within the bathroom. I was used to feeling these frequencies as a child. I had these abilities. I could tell if there was a spirit or some higher dimensional being possibly in the room. I could feel the vibrational frequencies. And very often that's associated with a change in temperature in the room as well. Well, on this occasion, I felt those higher vibrational frequencies, and I looked to the right of me, and there were two beings that had materialized there. They were human in appearance, both very attractive. One male, one female. Both had long blonde shoulder-length hair, deep blue eyes, wearing a tight-fitting blue jumpsuit type garment. And they were speaking telepathically to one another, which I could understand. I was absolutely terrified by this. I didn't know what to do. And they were speaking about me, not to me. And I know who they are now. Obviously, I've had contact with them all my life. The male is named Ort, O-R-T, and the female is named Dee, D-E-E. And Dee questioned Ort and said, "Is this the boy?" And Ort replied, "Yes, this is the boy." Bearing in mind I'm listening to this telepathically. And then Dee says, but look at him, he's very small, he's uneducated, he's frightened by our presence. And she was correct, I was terrified. And Ort replied, "Yes, this is a boy, I will guide him, I will teach him." There was some other conversation in that, but I don't recall what it was. And then a short period of time after that, they left. I was so frightened, I stayed in the bath, the water went cold. My mother came in to see why I was still in the bath, and I told her about the two beings that had been in the bathroom, and she said it was just my imagination. She dried me off, and then I went on with my evening. So that was my first encounter with Orton D. And then my next encounter would be, I was 9 years old. I was at home, I had some friends, I had lots of friends when I was a kid, and they were leaving because it was tea time, they were going home. I showed them out the back door, and when I turned back into the home, I could feel their conscious energy again, changing the vibrational frequency within the home. So I went looking for this vibrational frequency. I went in the kitchen, I went upstairs to the bedroom, went back down to the living room where the energy was the strongest. And I was drawn towards the window. I looked behind the drapes or the curtains, and there was an orb there. It was 4 to 6 inches across, orange-yellow in colour, slightly vibrating. There was no communication. I didn't know what it was. I felt that I'd brought it into the home, but I didn't know what it was at that moment in time. So I was hoping that it would probably disappear when I got up the following morning. So I went to bed, got up the following morning, went to the curtain, and it was still there. So I thought, well, when I go to school, I'm sure when I come back from school, it'll have gone when I come back from school. So I went to school, I came back in, and as I opened the back door to enter the home, I knew I could feel the vibrational frequency was still there. The orb actually stayed for a whole week, and it wasn't until Friday that I came back into the home from school. I opened the back door, and I knew instantly that it had gone. There was no direct communication that I was aware of with the orb. I know who the orb was now. I didn't at the time. But what happened was my psychic abilities were enhanced no end to where I was able to separate my physical body from my spiritual body and from my conscious energy, as it were. And I would just use that locally. I would go and separate my conscious energy from my physical and go over to see my grandparents who lived about 70 miles away in Liverpool. I would do this usually on a Sunday. I would relax, open my mind, separate my consciousness and fly over to my grandparents' home. I would usually sit upstairs in the master bedroom. There was a dressing room there. I would sit down in that dressing room and I would look down through the floor, which was opaque. And I would usually see my grandmother in the kitchen, usually cooking on a Sunday, and my grandfather either watching the TV or reading the newspaper. And it gave me great comfort to see them this way. We weren't able to travel the 70 miles at that time because it was quite expensive, and obviously schooling and things got in the way. But I was able to do this, and I would do it regularly most Sundays. I did wonder at the time, what if they came upstairs, what would they see? I now know the answer to that, because the orb behind the curtain when I was 9 was actually the conscious energy of Ort, one of my ET guides. So if they'd have come upstairs into the bedroom, they would have seen a round, yellow, golden-coloured orb, 4 to 6 inches across, slightly vibrating. So I continued to use that throughout my childhood, and I thought it was normal. I thought it was just another one of our senses, taste, hearing, smell, touch, sight, and out-of-body travel, separation of consciousness from the physical. So all quite interesting for a young child. But then the things seemed to develop a little bit further then. As I got older, I got to 14, and I used to have a paper round. And that was a lot of us did in those days just to get some extra pocket money. And but every time I walked out of the home, a UFO would appear directly above my home. And then a second one would always appear. And then the two would follow me around around the paper round and until I'd finished. And then one would usually go back the way it came, and then the other one would go straight up into space. And that was almost every day when I went out. I did get a little paranoid as a 14-year-old, thinking that they were following me. And yes, they were following me. I'm sure of that now because of my lifelong interaction with them. But on one occasion, I always knew they were there, the other side of the hedge, the other side of the wall, while I was delivering the papers. And on one occasion, I said to them, I know you're there. Can you show yourself? What do you want? And two small grey beings appeared from behind the hedge. And they said, I asked them what they wanted. And they said there was a group of people that wanted to meet with me. So I said, well, I have to finish my paper round, and then I've got to go to school this morning, and I don't know whether I can come with you. They said, well, we will get you back in time for school, and we'll wait until you've finished your paper round. So I said, oh, I agreed. And I wasn't fearful at all. They were about the same height as me as a 14-year-old. So I finished the paper round, and I went with them. And they took me up onto a craft. It was a huge craft. And in that craft was, in the hangar, a number of large crafts, all different shapes and sizes. And then as I was walking from the craft that I went up in, there was a small grey working on the craft. And I came to know him later. And his name is Tia. He's a technician and a pilot. And he waved to me. I didn't know him then, but to be polite, I just waved back and smiled. Anyway, I was then escorted down into a large amphitheatre, and this amphitheatre was full of many different species. And at the front of the amphitheatre, on the stage, were a group of 8 ETs, extraterrestrials, higher conscious beings, star beings, whatever label you want to put on them. So I was escorted down to the front. I went on the stage and I was stood in front of this group of 8. And at the left-hand side were Ort and D, and obviously I'd seen them before, so again I wasn't frightened. And then there was next to them was a blue bird type being with like a duck-billed beak. Her name is Anna. And then next to her was a small grey called Zark. And I've got to know him over the years. He's a mathematician and engineer. He designs propulsion systems. And I know he has 3 offsprings. And then at the centre of the group was a large, human figure type. His name was Ra. He looked like an ancient Egyptian. I was informed that he was Anunnaki, and he leaded the group. Next there was Tag, and he was a tall grey, and he was responsible for the security not only of this quadrant of the galaxy, but for the council itself. Then the next being would be Chica. Now he frightened me to some degree because he looked like a praying mantis, only just as tall or slightly taller than a human. And I was a bit perturbed by that. But and then the last one was Orla, and she was a tall white, very human-looking, with white translucent hair. So that was my first introduction to this group, and I thought I was there just to be paraded as a human species, so they could see me. And I say I wasn't frightened particularly, other than when I saw Chica, the mantis-type being. But it turned out that I was there as an introduction. They wanted to meet with me, and it was part of my education. And I know that now. I didn't know that then. And this particular group were part of a council of 8, and the other people that were in the amphitheatre were the delegates, very much like our government's meetings when they meet, like at the United Nations or in our parliaments or Congress or whatever. They all sit in an amphitheatre with these speakers at the front, and that was I was there for, was for an introduction. I was then taken back home, and I remember it was about 25 minutes later than I would normally get home in relation to finishing my paper round. And I got to school on time, so that was amazing. But again, that was part of my education. And what tends to happen is the fact that they will give me experiences rather than sit me down in a classroom. I know when I got to about 16, 17, I'm using my out-of-body travel. I'm still seeing the UFOs on a regular basis. One night I go to bed and I think I will ask Orton D for more information. There must be a lot more information than we're being told, and there was no internet at that time. So I went to bed that evening with that intent to do that. I relaxed, I opened my mind, and I held my hand out and asked Ort if he would come and give me some more information. He did come. He took hold of my hand, and I left my body, and I was floating above my body. I could see it asleep, and Ort was there holding my hand. We then left through the window and flew round the subdivision. Obviously, and then flew back into the window. I looked down, my body was asleep, and I went back into my body. I woke up the following morning thinking that was cool. Didn't know whether it was a dream, whether it was real. So I thought I would try it again the second night. So the second night I did the same. I relaxed, I opened my mind, I held out my hand and asked Ort to come and give me some more information. This time he came, he took hold of my hand, I looked down at my body, I was fast asleep. We went out through the window, and this time we went down into Leeds city centre. We went down to I saw the town hall, the hospital, the university building where I worked at the time, some other buildings that I recognised. We then flew back up to my apartment, in through the window, and again I was asleep. I went back into my body and woke up the following morning, and I'm still not certain whether I'm dreaming, sleepwalking, or what really is going on. So I thought I'll try it again for the third night. So I tried it again for the third night, exactly the same routine. And on this time I asked Ort, I said, I'm still not concerned that, I am concerned that I don't know whether I'm sleepwalking or dreaming, but I don't really want to go out of the window because we're 3 stories up and it's pavement below. So he said, right, okay, we'll go out through the roof. So we went out through the roof, and then all subsequent journeys we both left out through the roof. Really just continuing on with that education in relation to consciousness, and consciousness is the thread of the education that they have given me. Probably my next encounter was about 1718, and Ort came to me and said, Kevin, I'm going to take you somewhere special this evening. Are you prepared to go with me? I said, yes, I'll go anywhere you want to go. So he took hold of my hand, we left out through the roof, I left my body, it was asleep, and we travelled up and up and up and up. And then I always describe it as we took a right turn. In that right turn, I believe we went into a higher dimension. In fact, I know that now. And within that dimension, there was a line of 30 people. At the head of the line was my deceased father. And he was stood up, he was 6 feet tall. And I'd never seen him standing because he was always in a wheelchair from when I was born. So obviously he was pleased to see me, I was pleased to see him, and we had the introductions. Then he said, I'm going to introduce you to 30 members of your family going back 300 years. So as I'm going down the line, I'm introduced, they tell me what they did in their last physical, their names and everything, and I could see a physical form they were projecting to me. As I got to about the 15th, halfway down the line, they no longer showed me a physical, they showed me a conscious energy orb, 4 to 6 inches across, golden in colour, slightly vibrating. They could still show me a image of what their last physical looked like, and they spoke telepathically about what they did. So I went right down the line, and then after visiting, we decided to go back. So we went back to my apartment. So I didn't hear what you said
about
there, Janet.
your line of. Can I ask you a question about? Hold on, let me try.
Yes,
something
Coach
here. Okay, I'm getting some feedback. When you went down the line and your relatives or your soul family showed themselves to you, were they from different times and ages? You know, like some from the 1500s. Were they all contemporary? They just tell me some of the times represented.
Contemporary, going back 300 years, all human, all had a physical on planet Earth within the timeline and history that I was aware of as a young human on this planet. So that there weren't any ETs or anything like that. One of them was a blacksmith. I remember him showing me where he worked as a blacksmith. There were others that worked in the fields, on farms, just quite an array of different people, really. But just fascinating to see them. And I think really the lesson in that they gave me was the fact that when the physical dies, the conscious energy continues on at a higher vibrational frequency. It is still alive. It still exists. And I think that was a lesson in the fact that when our physical does die...
Did they indicate that they came back after those lifetimes, or were they still there? Was reincarnation in this formula?
Okay, no, it wasn't. As far as I was concerned, they were just there. I got so used to going to visit them with art, I developed the abilities myself to go and visit them when I wanted. But what was happening each time I went to visit them, they wanted me to stay with them. There was so much feeling of love from them, just emanating from them. And every time I said, right, I'll have to go now, they wanted me to stay. And I felt that after a couple of years of visiting like this, I felt that I shouldn't go and see them anymore, because if I'm unable to get back into my physical will die, and I will be up here with my family, but at a higher vibrational frequency. And I was enjoying my physical at the time. So I decided one day while I was at work, I would go and visit them that evening, let them know this would be the last visit, and that I wouldn't be coming back. But I know that they're there when my physical does die, and they will be waiting with open arms to meet me with that tremendous amount of love that I felt. So again, they tried to persuade me to stay, but I didn't. And I said that was after visiting them on a 2-year basis. So probably when I got to about 18, 19-ish, then I didn't go and see them anymore. But I do know that they are there. I have no problems with that. But again, that was just a lesson about conscious energy, about consciousness, about who we are.
Well, what, Kevin, do you think is the overall message that your whole line of energy, your line, what is the message that your ancestors and you are trying to have you tell us?
Well, I think the whole thread through the experiences that they've given me and the actual downloads, they give me downloads of information, are all relating to conscious energy and consciousness itself in relation to all life in the universe. I would say now that the main true life in the universe is conscious energy. That is the life. And then to experience a physical, we use that conscious energy to come down into a physical realm to have some experiences, physical experiences, to expand our consciousness as experiences. So I believe that's what it is. And then they have given me downloads in relation to explain it scientifically. And I'm not a scientist, but I remember on one occasion they gave me a download about the quantum unified field theory, which I knew nothing about. And on that occasion, they said that your scientists' understanding of their quantum unified field theory is correct. However, their understanding of the weak force, strong force, electromagnetic and gravitational forces are correct, but they need to include conscious energy within that. And that will give them a better understanding of their own quantum unified field theory. When they gave me that information, I was just sat by my pool and it came down in an instant, and I didn't know anything about that particular theory at the time. So I asked them for confirmation. I said, can you show me a craft to confirm that this is information I've received from you and it's not just my own thought? Well, a craft appeared immediately outside my pool area. I went inside to get my wife. And I said, come outside quickly, there's a craft. She came outside, and a second craft appeared, a third, a fourth. 7 in total appeared. They flew silently over our heads, changed direction about...
Wow.
And then disappeared sequentially.
Was the soul family...
Sorry, say that again.
I'm sorry, we had a little drop-off in sound here. Your soul family, were they wearing clothes or robes? What were they wearing?
Yes,
what they were wearing
they were dressed in the time period that they had their physical. Now, the ones that showed me just conscious energy orb, obviously they didn't have a physical, they would just give me a mental image of their physical.
Okay. And how did you know that Ort was an orb, the orb behind the couch? Did you have that conversation?
No. What I asked Ort later on in life, who or what was the orb behind the curtain when I was 9, and he told me that it was him, it was his pure conscious energy orb that he'd separated from his physical. It wasn't the right time to tell me when I was 9. They were just, I think, activating my psychic abilities, or maybe turning on DNA, I'm not quite sure. But as a 9-year-old, the marked contrast from having some psychic abilities, being able to sense the different vibrations in the room, to really completely separating consciousness from the physical. And I would just use it as an everyday tool, and didn't realise until I got to 16 or 17 that nobody talks about this. So I asked my friends and family in the third party question. I have a friend that does this. He travels outside of his body. Do you know anybody that does that or has this ability? And I couldn't find anybody anywhere. So I didn't talk about it after that, but I continued to do it, and it was just one of my senses.
So when you met this group, they were in a group on the ship at one time, and is this like some kind of council? Do you attend it regularly? What's going on there?
Okay. I do. They still continue to contact me. I'm able to communicate with them whenever I want. Sometimes they will give me information. Just this last year, February the 1st, I was woken up and I was fast asleep. And it was February the 1st, and I looked at the clock, and it was 1:11 a.m., 1:11 a.m. And very often they use synchronicity in time when they attract my attention. So I woke up, and they gave me a download. They wanted to give me some information to share with 8 different groups and individuals. So I went into my bathroom at the time, and I said, right, I repeated the information back to them, who I should give the information to. And I said, if this information is correct, can you confirm it by, there's a street light directly outside my bathroom. I said, can you turn that street light off? As confirmation, and the street light went off immediately. I then asked them if I needed some more information, and they said they would give me that later. Later on in that morning, I was woken up about 8 o'clock by 2 people jumping on the bed. I thought my dog had entered, or one of my dogs has entered the bedroom, and they're not allowed in there. But it wasn't. It was just them jumping on the bed. They gave me the second part of the message for this group of people. And on this occasion, now it's now daylight. So I walk into the bathroom and I repeat the message, the whole message, and the people I'm supposed to give it to, and said, right, can you turn the street light on? Bear in mind it's daylight. As confirmation, and the street light came on immediately. So many different modalities of contact they use in relation to getting me to this position where I've got direct communication with them. And there are many modalities of contact. They use dreams, telepathic communication, downloads,
let me understand. I must understand, is there some reason why you need this confirmation? Do you expect the signals may be intercepted? Or why do you need to go through this confirmation thing? I don't understand.
Oh, okay, because I want to know whether it's my own imagination. Am I just imagining this? So when they give you a download or giving me a telepathic communication, I ask for confirmation, either by showing me a craft, turning the light on, turning the light off, asking them to show me an animal to walk in front of my path, or many different ways of doing it. So I'm 100% certain and comfortable with the fact that they are communicating with me with these many modalities. Because without that confirmation, how do I know it's not my own thought and I'm delusional?
Yeah, I used to do the same thing. I said, if you're real, show me a sign. So when I was driving home from the UFO group that I was facilitating, they would either go sideways across my screen, like directly in the middle of my car screen, the windshield, or they come from back to the front. It was never like front, top down. It wasn't a shooting star. It was like they were just flying past. I could see them. It was very fast, but I'd say, "Are you real?" And then they would do something as soon as I thought it. And they would play with me all the way home. It was like about a 20-minute drive, and they would just play with me the entire time. And then same thing though. It's like you keep doubting it. It's like, come on, is this really real? So they would do it one last time as I was putting my keys in the door to go into the house. I said, "Okay, you're real."
Yeah.
So, well, I wanted to know more about this. Go ahead.
So I go. No, you go on. You were going to ask me a question.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to know more about the council because there's a gentleman named A.R. Borden who said that he met regularly with the council, and they took meeting notes and they were talking about decisions on what to do for the Earth and how to. So at one point, apparently we were on a kind of a negative course with Nibiru, and it was going to create wreak havoc on the Earth. And so the council decided to time shift phase the planet out of the destructive path and then reorient us so that we were no longer going to be in a path that was going to be destructive for the Earth. So
it didn't fit quite, so we get a Mandela effect.
Nah. Anyway, so what kind of things were they at this council meeting? So they were showing you the council members, and this is just what A.R. Borden said. They said they had a roll call. There were different species. Now, were you the only human there, or were there other humans?
Yes, I was. Well, there were others that looked like human. Orton D just looked like me and you, and they tell me they're part of. I'm part of their extended family. They are Arcturians from Andromeda, they say, but they are here currently in our solar system. So they look like just me and you. And then there was Anna. She looked like a blue bird type, very small blue feathers and a duck beak. Zaki's a small grey. Ra was the Anunnaki, the leader, very powerful, very strong energy. Targ was a tall grey, and Chica was the mantis that frightened me when I was 14. And then Orla, the tall white, she looks like human, but she's a tall white. And they all use telepathic communication as the modality of communication. So they've told me many things over the years in relation to... I was the only Earth person there, yes.
That's what I was asking. Yes. Okay. So were you part of decisions they were making, or was this purely educational? What was the purpose of your gathering, your council meetings?
Why did they have you there?
Okay.
Yeah. What was your yeah?
Well, obviously when I was there at 14, that was to be introduced to the council themselves. But the main thread of everything, as I've said before, is the fact that it's one of education. I haven't been in a position now, I haven't been contributing to their decision making or what they're going to do. They've just given me information about what they are proposing. They are here to assist humanity with our evolution and the evolution of our societies. And that's the main thread in the fact that they are here, and they have people like myself that they are contacting. And I've met others now that have had contact with this same group. I've had others that have met with Orton D, and it's very interesting when you go and meet them. And I remember one lady I spoke to, Rebecca Renfro, and I gave her a copy of my book, The Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey, to give to someone else. And as she took hold of the book, she got this urge to open the book at the back, and at the back of the book there's a sketch of Orton D, and she said, I know these people, I've met them. And anyway, we got together, cut a long story short, and me and my wife were invited down to her home with her husband and a couple of other friends, and we were speaking about Orton D, and she got her notes out, and the information she'd been given was almost identical to what I'd been given. And again, that was I had some information that she didn't have, but it gave her confirmation. And it was just fascinating. And I know that they've contacted others, and I've had confirmation. I said they gave me different groups to contact, and I've had confirmation from some of those groups now who had in contact with the group of 8. And I am aware that there are other councils all working towards our evolution, our development. This is just one of many, I think, and but they're here to help, they're here to assist, and the journey continues.
Specific. What about with all these different councils or sub-councils? Do you have any direct feedback on handling the pandemic that's facing Earth now?
The only information they've given me about the pandemic is the fact that it's obviously real. It's been handled badly at the moment, but we will get through the other side of it, and then we have a positive future ahead of us. They're wanting to meet with our government's ambassadors, our representatives, and that's one of the things that they asked me to do. A couple of years ago now, I think it was. They wanted to meet with our United Nations and be as ambassadors, to meet with our United Nations ambassadors. They asked me to contact the United Nations and ask if there was a protocol in place to receive them. So on that occasion, I wrote to Nicholas Hedman's office, chairman of the Outer Space Affairs Committee in Vienna, and I did get a reply. He said there's no protocol in place at this time should advanced extraterrestrials wish to communicate with the United Nations. I then responded back asking how would we implement a mandate protocol to receive them, and he replied back that we would have to get a member state to propose that to the United Nations for a vote on it. So, and I know that people are working on that now. There are many groups that are working towards that, and I was actually nominated to go and speak at the Enlightenment Society at the United Nations. It went to their board of directors for confirmation, but I haven't heard back. But I have heard from other mediums that I've got to be patient now because the government is not ready at this moment in time to receive this Council of 8. But there are many working towards it. It's not just, I'm unimportant in this. I'm just one small person. And I say there are many working towards this. So positive times ahead, and we will get through the virus. Obviously, there are many that have died already, and it will continue for a bit longer. So.
Okay, so we were doing your timeline. So you were 18 or so when we stopped your timeline. So what else happened? What happened after you were a young man? You're in your 20s. Or what else happened when you were a teenager?
Well, yes, obviously I was busy with my work. I was working at the university as a technician. I continued to use my out-of-body experiences just in simple everyday things. If I was going round to visit a friend, I would just fly over there first to make sure he was at home before I walked the 20-minute round to his house. We didn't have cell phones or computers in those days, so I would use it for things like that. Or when I was going to work, I used to travel by bus, and I could choose 2 different bus stops. Very often I would go to one, there would be a line of about 40 people because the bus had missed or whatever. So I would come out of my apartment, fly up to the top of the street, see which bus stop had the smaller line, and then walk down to that particular bus stop. Again, nothing unusual for me. Or if I'm coming home from work on the bus, I remember on nice summer's days, I would just leave my body and fly behind the bus because it's just a wonderful feeling to see nature all around you as you're separate from your physical. So I would just use it at that. And then really I was concentrating on my work and meeting my wife. I met my wife at work, and then I did tell my wife about my abilities and the interactions I have with the ETs, the higher conscious beings, because we'd been going out for a while, and I thought it was only fair that I asked her, because I was going to ask if she would marry me. And so I told her about the interactions, and she said that, well, if you see any spirits or ghosts or ETs, I want to see them too. So she was on board from day one. So that was good. But she did decline my offer of marriage. I asked her 2 or 3 times before she agreed. So.
Wow.
But my wife now gets contact from the ETs as well. They've included her now, which is quite interesting.
What made her change her mind?
Why did she
not get married that she did?
I don't know. You have to ask her that. I'll have to ask her. I don't think she was ready. We did end up moving in together for a few years before we got married. But yes, why she changed her mind, that's a very good question. I've never asked her that question. I'll ask her that this evening. Anyway, we're still together now. Yeah, we're still together. And we actually got married in 81, so that's quite a few, about 30 odd years, isn't it? 37 or something? 38? I don't know. But yeah, 1981 we got married. But
okay.
Interesting that they now include Sandy.
Say that again?
Yes, I said it's interesting now that they include Sandy. One of the Council of 8, I think I've mentioned in Zark, the small grey, he started contacting her by moving her personal items around the home. She would put something down, turn around to pick it up, and it wasn't there. And then she would go and pull the blinds on because the sun was coming in while she was cooking. She'd turn around when she got back to the kitchen, the blind was open again. And then on one occasion, I heard Sandy shouting at me, Kevin, come here quickly. I said, what's the matter? All her shoes in the closet had been lined up, heel directly, neatly and tidily with the baseboard. And my wife takes them off and leaves them where she takes them off. So she thought I'd tidied the room up and moved them. But it turned out I knew it was that to start with, but I did ask him. I asked him if he moved the shoes physically, and he said no, he moved the atoms in space, time, dimension. So quite an interesting answer, really. But,
hey, he's hired.
And I did ask
my house.
I did ask him why he did it, and he said he liked teasing her. He thought it was funny, but there was a serious side to let her know that we are here, we are amongst you. And I say since then, they've shown a craft, 7 craft at one occasion, then another one. And then on one occasion, just recently, I was going to contact my group of ATTs, so I relaxed, I opened my mind, I put the information out there, and I wasn't able to contact them. But I contacted a small craft that had 5 or 6, maybe 7 greys in it, and I recognised the pilot of the craft. It was Tia, the one that waved at me when I was 14 and went onto the big craft. And I said to him, what are you doing here? And he said, oh, we were in the area and we wanted to come and see where you lived. I said, oh, that's neat. So I had a bit more conversation, and then he said, we'll have to go because we're off our designated flight path. Now, nothing unusual for me, communicating with these beings using telepathy, consciousness itself, and as the conduit for communication. But on this occasion, I got dressed, got up, and my wife was sat outside by the pool area, and she said, you missed the most beautiful rainbow this morning. I said, did you get a photograph? She said, yes, I got a photograph of the rainbow. And then she said, you won't believe what happened next. I said, no, what happened next? She said, a craft appeared under the rainbow. And the rainbow was 360 degrees from our fence line at the back. We have 5 acres. And as she was taking the second photograph, the craft appeared. She saw it quite clearly, a metallic disc-shaped craft. She then took the photograph. The photograph is a little blurred of the craft, but I suspect it just decloaked long enough to show Sandy she was there. But when I came outside to have a look at the photograph, and I looked at the time on the photograph, the time was 8:30, the exact time I was speaking with Tia on the craft. So that's another lesson they've given me in relation to communication. For my own personal communication, communicating with a group of 7 small greys on a craft flying by, and at the same time my wife takes a photograph of the craft. Now that's what they do in relation to experiences to increase our education and understanding of who they are and how they communicate. And they do use conscious energy for communication, for travel, and for creation itself. And they've given me many examples of that. And I've used those modalities myself for all those different things, for communication, for travel, and for creation, which they gave me information on how to do, which I've done.
Have they ever appeared to her, the different beings? Have they appeared to her physically? To Sandy?
No, not at all. We're just in the stage of seeing craft and Zach moving things around the home. But I suspect it will continue, and my wife is open to meeting with them if they want to meet. And I say, and D are not frightened, if they wanted to land a craft in my backyard and come and meet. I know that they've met others. They've walked into a dentist surgery, and both Hort and D, and had some work done. So they are about, and I suspect if they landed and they wanted to come in for a cup of tea or whatever, they would be welcome, So there's an open invitation for them to come down, and they know that. So someday in the future they may well come down and we can sit down and chat.
It's not just a vision, which you've said repeatedly, is that there's an energetic, an electric thing, something in the air. Does she get that same kinesthetic sense when they're about?
I don't know. I would have to ask that. She hasn't mentioned it, and I haven't asked her that specific question, but I will do, because it is interesting that she's open to be contacted, and she's happy, and she knows my whole story. She helped me write the book and edit it for me, and she's very comfortable with the fact that they are here. And we have done a couple of CE5s on our pool deck and asked them to show themselves as a craft. And Sandy's always the first one to see them, So they are listening to her, and they do listen to our thoughts and things. So yeah, I'm hoping it'll expand for Sandy, because it's fascinating, really, having this direct communication.
Yeah.
So go ahead and continue with your story, with your timeline.
Okay, between probably early 20s, not a great deal of activity other than me just using my psychic abilities, my other abilities. When I was about 32, I worked as a police officer in the UK, and I'd just completed 2 shifts. One that you finish at 10 o'clock at night, you get back home, then you've got to be back up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you finish at 2 o'clock the following afternoon. So after those shifts, I was always tired. So on this occasion, I would just go to bed for a couple of hours till my wife came home from work, and then we'd go about our evening. On this occasion, I'd just got into bed, and a shadow person came through the door that was closed. He looked at me straight in the eye, which is most unusual. I've seen these shadow people all my life. They're usually a precursor to a communication, and but for him to look at me directly in the eye was most unusual. And then he beckoned me, and I wasn't perturbed by him. I'd seen them before. I asked him to. I said, "No, I'm not interested. Just leave. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Come back later." Well, he left, and he came back about 30 seconds later. He looked at me again, and he beckoned me again. I said, "No, go away. I'm tired. Come back later." So he left, and he came back a 3rd time. I said, "Right, okay then, you are clearly want to show me something, and you're not going to leave me alone. I will get up." So I got up out of bed. I didn't get dressed. I went onto the landing. I opened the bedroom door, and on the landing there was a beam of light from the floor to the ceiling. And I would describe that like if anybody's watched Star Trek, when they beam down to the planet, it was just like that. So I thought, well, you've gone to all this trouble to get me here to see this. So I just stepped in the beam of light. And when I stepped in it, I had a feeling of euphoria, total euphoria. I then heard a telepathic communication, and the communication was, I am your father, you are your father's son. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. I do now. I didn't at the time. And the beam then disappeared sequentially from the floor and the ceiling at the same time and disappeared in my abdomen area. And as I said, I felt euphoric. I didn't go back to bed. I got dressed. I went about the afternoon. I took my dogs out for a walk. I told my wife about the incident, and then we went out that evening for a meal. And we would never do that because I was so tired after these, shifts that worked late and then getting up early in the morning. So that was just another. But I found out later that energy, that was Ra himself. That was the leader of the council, who is the Anunnaki. I still don't fully understand what it means. I am your father, you are your father's son. I suspect it's probably something to do with the human race. I'm not certain. I haven't clarified that with him. But I know that he's contacted others. I was given information on one of those to contact Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle-Wright. And I emailed her, and about half an hour later she phoned me. And we only communicate probably once a year or something like that. We do by email, but not by phone. And I thought, she's got the message. And she said, no. I said, have you got the email? And she said, no, I was going to drop some family members off at some college or school or whatever. And as I left, I got this telepathic message to contact you. And it said it was important. You had important information for me. So that's why I phoned. I said, well, I've emailed you the information. And she described the energy that came with that information, and that energy is Ra. That's the lead council. And I know Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle-Wright runs the Exo Consciousness group for after the reveal, after the full disclosure. She's been working on that for many years now, and she worked with Dr. Mitchell alongside with him until he passed last year, I believe. So she's another one that they've had direct contact with, and I know she has her own contacts. And there are many now. I've met many that all my life I thought I was just on my own, but we're all part of a jigsaw, and each of us has a very small piece. But with all those small pieces, when you put them together, you get the full picture, and that's now beginning to emerge, is this full picture with all the people that are involved, and we've all been connected.
What else do you know about Ra, the leader of the council?
Okay. The only thing I know about him is he looks like an ancient Egyptian, like you see in all the photographs and things. His energy is absolutely tremendous. I did do a channel with him at the Free Foundation probably about 18 months ago, and he came through. And when I do a channel like that, the air temperature immediately around me rises by about 10 degrees. And if you were to watch that particular channel, I think it's on my website, you can see the heat emanating through me through sweat, and I get really hot. But I don't know a great deal about him other than his Anunnaki. He's over 5,000 years old. He is the head of this council. That's probably about it, really. I think that's all I know about him.
So there is like a lead person of a council. They're not all, the members are not all in equal standing. There's somebody that heads the council.
Yes, I suspect. Ra is the leader of the council, and I suspect the others have an equal part to play, as it were. They represent several species, as they said, within this quadrant of our galaxy. And I'm sure there's many, many more species, many, many more councils, like we have on Earth. We have our councils, our governments, our different governments, our different system as it goes down the people who control our planet. So I suspect it's the same with them, but Ra has that lead council.
Okay. So what else happened? You're 30 something.
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Astral plane and doing all the things that they've shown me how to do, and I'm really just doing that for entertainment. I enjoy doing it. But on one occasion, I was traveling on the astral plane just out of body, and a craft came alongside me, and it was a conscious craft. I was invited on board the craft, and on board the craft was Orton D. As I went through the craft's skin, I could feel that it was conscious. Inside was Orton D, as I said, and they showed themselves as pure conscious. Again, vibrating, golden in colour, 4 to 6 inches across, and they wanted me to convey a message to someone. So I said I would. They gave me the information. I left the craft, and then I thought, well, the person they've asked me to give the information to, we want to know who it's from. They may not know Orton D. So I said, can I come back on the craft? I went back on the craft, and I said, who shall I say the message is from? They said, tell him it's from the light beings. So I left the craft. I then went back home, went back into my body, and I woke up, and I wrote the message down so I didn't forget it. I went back to sleep, and then I woke up in the morning, I read the message, and I tore it up. I shredded it and put it in the trash bin. I said, I'm not doing that. If I give this message to someone who I don't know, who's very prominent, and I say I'm traveling on the astral plane, 2 light beings gave me a message for you, and he'll probably think I'm delusional. So I said I'm not doing it. So then what happened was the following night, they both contacted me in a dream. And dream modality, our modality of contact. And they said, Kevin, it's very important you convey this message. If you do not convey this message, this person will die on this day. So now I'm in a dilemma, and I have to think about this. So I think the choices are, there's a man here who I don't know. I can say I've got this contact with these extraterrestrials. I went on their conscious craft, and they gave me this message
Kevin?
for you. Yes?
Kevin, we have a cliffhanger here. You're going to have to hold till after the break, so you'll be back in 4 minutes. We'll tell the rest of the story when you come back. Okay. Put your mic on mute. Back in 5.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio! All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix. I am your host, Janet Kerr Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin, producer, Deborah DeFranco, and our guest is Kevin Briggs. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to the donation button on revolution.radio and go up to the top left tab and make your one-time donation, or go to the Patreon link and make your recurring donation. And we do thank you very much for your donations, which allows us to bring you shows like this one. Okay, Kevin, when we left, you were telling us about the person that's famous that you had a message for, but you didn't feel comfortable to write it down and deliver it to them. So what happened?
Okay, so what happened? They came to me in the dream, as I said, the following night, and gave me the information that if I didn't convey the message, that this person would die on that particular day. So that left me with a moral dilemma. And the moral dilemma would be, if I don't tell him and he dies on that day, I would never forgive myself. If I contact him and he thinks I'm totally delusional, I can live with that. At least I conveyed the message. So it took me a day to come to that decision. And it's not something you could share with people to help make the decision. I had to make that myself. So once I'd made the decision to convey the message, I thought, well, how do I contact this person? I don't know. But I do find very often if I ask for information, they will point me in the right direction or give me some information to be able to achieve what I want to achieve. So I thought I'll go onto my computer, go onto YouTube and put this person's name in. So I put the person's name in, and he was the top right-hand side. A video came up, the very first video of this person talking at a conference. Now, but sat next to him was a police officer from the UK, Gary Heseltine. And I knew of Gary at that time. In fact, I've written an article for one of his magazines. So I thought, right, I'll contact Gary. So I got Gary's phone number and email, and I say he was a police officer in the same area where I was. So we had some commonality there, although I didn't know him at the time. I conveyed the message as I've conveyed it to you. He was completely non-judgmental, and he said he would convey the message. He did convey the message, and about 30 minutes later, he received a reply from the recipient, and it was thanking me for the information, and he would take it under advisement. And then he also sent a photograph of a light being that he had taken while out on a field trip. So that was confirmation for me, and it took a weight off my shoulders in relation to that responsibility. I did ask my ET guides why they had asked me to convey this message when clearly they could do it themselves. And they said to me, Kevin, we wanted to see if you would convey the message. So I don't know whether he was in any true danger or not, or whether it was just another lesson in relation to communication and responsibility for conveying information, which I do gladly now. You know, I'm fully open to my mission, to what I'm doing. But a further codicil to that would be in relation to the craft. When I'd been given the message, I went back onto the craft and I said, let me see if I understand what's happening here. I said, here we are on a conscious energy craft. I said, I see you two as pure conscious energy. We are travelling on the astral plane, which is a plane between dimensions. And you're speaking to me telepathically using consciousness as the conduit. And I said, how do you see me? And they said, Kevin, we see you exactly as you see us. So really that was confirmation. They'd got me to a certain level where I'm able to use conscious energy as the conduit for these different things. And again, just experiences they give me. They don't sit me down in the classroom and teach me things. I'm given experiences.
So this person that you conveyed the message to, they weren't really in danger. You know, what kind of message could you deliver to somebody that would save their life? I'm kind of confused on what.
Well, the message was to change his itinerary for a specific day. That was the message.
Okay.
And I didn't say actually in the message that he would die. I thought that was a bit too extreme. I toned it down a bit and said that he was in danger. He needed to change his itinerary for that particular day, and he didn't need to tell anybody he was changing the itinerary. He just needed to change it. So I don't know whether he was in any danger or whether it was just another lesson for me. I won't know till this day. He's still alive. He didn't die, so I'm quite happy for that. So
that's good. And there wasn't any kind of plane crash or train crash or car.
Nothing at all, really. So as I say, whether it was, I don't know. I won't know, and he won't know if he changed his itinerary for that day. He wouldn't know, would he?
Yeah, he probably wouldn't. But we had a friend that her son was acting up when they were getting on the plane. What's that one?
It's a Pan Am that flew over Lockerbie.
Yeah, and so they wouldn't let her on because the son was just having a fit, and so she missed that flight, and then they blew up. So we've heard of things like that.
Yes, that does happen, I'm sure. Well, as I say, we're all connected by consciousness, and if we're here, we have missions, we are protected as well. I know my ET guys protect me in relation to, and they keep me healthy as well, you know. I'm a typical 66-year-old, but I'm healthy. I don't take any drugs, and if I get any ailments, I'll ask them to heal me, and they do that. So it's a fascinating journey, fascinating.
So now, how old are you in this timeline?
Okay, where have we got
message?
Okay, so I'm getting a bit older now. Let me see. Look at my. So I'm just continuing going through my experiences, and then probably where were we then? About 5-6 years ago, we also moved. I retired from the police force and moved over here to the US. My wife always wanted to come over and live here, so we went through the immigration system and we were successful, and we now got the American citizenship. Then, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I was started getting more information, more downloads, more craft appearing, and then on one occasion, just a couple of years ago, I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And as I came back from the bathroom, I got into bed. I was about to snuggle down, and there was a bright light outside the bedroom window. The light came in through the bedroom window and lit up the whole bedroom like a myriad of butterflies, but it was just pure bright light. And then Orton D materialized at the bottom of the bed, and I asked them after pleasantries what was the reason for their visit, and they said, Kevin, we want you to write about your lifelong interactions with us. We want you to talk about your lifelong interactions with us. And I said, well, I don't mind talking about it, but I'm not a writer. They said, well, we will continue to guide you, we will continue to teach you, and we will give you information to include in the book, which they did. And then Art went on to say, you will write 2 books. And I had no intention of writing a second book, but I've just had that published with 2 co-authors. That's Tap into Universal Energy, and there's some more information in there from Orton D. There's a channel I did with some information, and so that part of it has come through. And I do talk to many groups now in relation to my experiences, and I'm meeting many other experiencers themselves, and we've all got a small piece of the information, as I've said before, for this huge picture, this huge jigsaw, which includes the evolution of humanity, really, of our species. They are here to assist us.
So is this new book published right now?
Yes, it's out. It's, as I say, it's called Tap into Universal Energy, published by BMK Publishing. It's available on Amazon, as well as my first book. And I was asked to write a book. I don't know whether you know Ray Hernandez. He now runs the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute. He's a new book coming out in October, I believe, and he has all the leading scientists writing a chapter. And Ray asked me to be a contributor to that, and I've written a chapter with more information, which includes some more channels that I've done with Art. So, and that's coming out in...
Tell us about your channeling. What's that like when you channel?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a new acquisition for me. So if you call it an acquisition, I'm not quite sure how you would describe it. It wasn't something I was particularly interested in. It was just, it just happened. I had some friends round, Kathy Marden and Denise Stoner and Dr. Melanie Barton, and we were just doing a meditation in my home, just the 4 of us and my wife, and Melanie said, did anybody receive any information? No, I said, no, nobody received any information. And then Melanie said to me, Kevin, did you get anything at all? I said, no, I didn't, nothing at all. I said, except there's a male stood next to me, and she said, well, who is it? I said, I don't know. She said, well, ask him. So I reached out my hand, I could feel his energy, I asked who it was, and it was Art. He then spoke through me for about 40 minutes. And when it finished, I was totally exhausted. I didn't know what had been said. We did record it, and then we met once a month for 2 years, the 4 of us and my wife, and I channeled Art or whoever came through. We recorded it, and it was transcribed now. So some of that will be coming out in this book in October, in Ray's book. It's a 3-volume book. I don't know how many pages, but a huge book. So that was quite an honour to be asked, I think. And I know Ray's doing and I did do a channel at one of his conferences in Miami a couple of years ago. And I say that channel, in fact, it was Dr. Melanie Melanie Barton that introduced me and did the meditation for the channel. So if you want to see that, if you haven't seen the channel before, it's quite interesting. So, but now I've got used to them. I don't get exhausted anymore. We're not doing them anymore within that group. I think we've come to the conclusion of the information that they've given us, but it's now being put out there for people to read and see. So that'll be interesting.
So what kind of information have you gotten on the climate and how humanity is coping with the swiftly changing climate of this planet?
Right. Well, they tell us that our pollution levels are so high, we're killing the planet. They're very concerned about that. They do tell me that they've got technologies that they will share with us that will help us sustain our biosphere and bring it back to where it should be. They're particularly concerned about Fukushima in relation to the radiation pollution, not only around the plant, but that's now spread right across the ocean to Pacific Ocean to California. Very concerned about that. And again, they will share technologies with us if our government's ambassadors will receive them. And our governments are aware of the request, because I've contacted them, and I know that others have contacted them as well. So it's really down to our governments, our own ambassadors. But as I'm sure you're aware, we're going through terrible times at the moment, and I don't think anything's going to happen until we get our societies back under control, and we are open-minded enough to receive the ETs. But they do want to meet with our ambassadors, and I was asked to contact our government in relation to that. I sent them the information with the group of 8 and their request, and I forwarded all my communication to the United Nations, to the chairman of the Outer Space Affairs Committee. I also wrote to Dr. DiPippo at the Outer Space Affairs Committee in Washington. I didn't receive a reply from him, but what was very interesting, I gave all information about the group of the 8 ETs that wished to meet and wished to have this protocol in place to receive them. I didn't receive a reply from Dr. DiPippo, but I was contacted by Terry Lovelace. He's a experiencer like myself from very early childhood. He's a retired assistant attorney general for 2 jurisdictions and a retired law professor. So he has some weight to him. And I met Terry at a conference in South Dakota last year, and we got on very well together. And his book that he's written about one of his first encounters, and it's called Incident at Devil's Den. So we spoke about that. That was what he gave his talk about. But what was interesting, after that, we formed a friendship and we keep in touch. As I said, I wrote to the officers both in Vienna and in Washington. And I got a phone call from Terry one day, and he said that his ET guides had given him the same information, and he knew Dr. DiPippo in Washington office there, so he was going to write to him supporting the information that I'd been given. So I know that now they had that information, that request from 2 people. I also know that the WCETC, the World Coalition for Extraterrestrial Contact, are currently lobbying the government in relation to this mandate protocol. I know that there are others in Washington that are also lobbying the government in relation to this. If we can get this mandate protocol in place and implemented, then we can move to the next step, which will be actually the full reveal. And that's really my main mission now. There are 2 parts to it, to connect the different groups together so people are aware of the information, and then to help facilitate the reveal with our United Nations or our governments, our ambassadors. So they are reaching out.
There's when I was at one of the conferences, leaders were reaching out to find one of these little municipalities that were actually a member of the United Nations, one of these pocket nations that's so small, and getting them to be the proposer that the United Nations look at that. So that's a way to go, and there's people actively going for that.
Right. Well, that's good. Is that once the as I said, there are many working on it. I'm unimportant in this. I'm just a small piece, it's amazing how many people are working to this. How many people that the ETs are contacting with, who are working together. It's a collaborative work between the ETs and ourselves here, and obviously our politicians are still objecting to this, but things are changing, and hopefully in the near future, as I said, they are ready to show themselves and meet. They have told me they will continue to show more and more mass sightings globally leading up to the reveal. And in fact, in that channel I did, which is on my website at the Free Foundation conference last year, Ra speaks through me, and he describes how the reveal will happen. And I know
how will the reveal happen?
Well, what they said, what came through with that particular channel was the craft would appear over the United Nations, it would land, and then obviously the ramp would come down, and then the Council of 8 would come out of the ramp and then be introduced, with Ra coming out last, introduced to our ambassadors. They would then go into the auditorium or whatever, and that will be the point of first contact, the reveal that they are here, that they are amongst us. But it's not going to be one-sided. They would like to be invited, and they need this mandate protocol to be accepted as ambassadors, as we would do with any any ambassadors on Earth itself. So nothing unusual for our politicians to do. It's well within their reach to do this. It's just whether they are going to open up to the fact that, and they know they are here. There are many that have contacted the government in relation to this. So, and the governments have got their own experiences anyway. But I was asked to write to the White House in relation to this mandate protocol and the request. I was reluctant to do that at first, but I did do. I wrote a letter outlining the mandate proposal, outlining this group of 8 that want to meet with our ambassadors, and I know that it was received at the White House because I received confirmation via the mail that they had received it. Whether it was read by anybody in position to do anything about it, I don't know. But as I say, we're all knocking on the door now, and we will just have to wait and see what happens.
What do you think it's going to take to get this invitation going? I mean, who are you talking to? I know Steve Bassett's been trying to do this for years.
Yes, he has. Steve Bassett. I spoke to Steve Bassett a few months ago. He is aware of the Council of 8. I don't believe he's an experienced himself, but he's been lobbying the government for quite a long period of time, and he's doing a lot of work now. And I know the WCETC and there's also a group from the Chinese. I was speaking I think it was last year, I got some information that there was a conference held in Russia, organised by the Chinese, and the main theme was getting a mandate protocol implemented at the United Nations. And Gary Hesseltine was one of the guests there. He was invited along with many leading scientists. The Chinese paid for all the hotel bills, the flights to get them to the conference in Moscow. And they are now lobbying as well. So that you've got the Chinese and the Russians who are working together, the Chinese scientists, and this was sanctioned by the Chinese government, which is absolutely amazing, really. Being coming from a communist party, you cannot do anything from China without the backing of the government. And so they're leading the way. It's us at the moment in the Western world that are dragging our feet. So we'll have to wait to see. I'm sure it's imminent, and they're going to continue to keep showing more and more craft till I can't see the major problem. Well, there are probably going to be major problems, but is it not now a good time to accept the fact the ETs are here and receive them? We need, we could do with some help, really.
Did Brock give you any other indicators, like what would happen? Would there be A, then B, then C, then disclosure? Was there anything else in that message that might give us a hint of when this might occur? What
do you do about the Illuminati that's siphoning off all the energy of the people on the planet?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's clear it's not just about the ETs. It's about the conscious energy. It's about the consciousness of our planet. It's about the consciousness of who we are as a species. And as you say, there's these negative groups that rule our planet, and they sap the energy, the positive energy of those of us that are trying to improve our planet, improve our species in relation to raising our vibrational frequency to those higher dimensions. And we are moving closely towards that, but that will be done from the spiritual side. For those that understand our spiritual side and our physical side, yes, they are connected while we're here in this physical, in this third dimension. But once you realise that we are spiritual beings having a physical, then that's really the key to it. And we can probably, by raising our vibrational frequency globally, then we can change that decision. We can put the intent out there. We can co-create a society that we desire for our children. We can co-create a society that we desire for our future generations. A society that we co-create with our ET star families, which will include them. So we are so close to doing this, to expanding our knowledge, expanding our understanding of who we are as a species, as a human species. And we need to gain our rightful position. And we have been invited to join a larger galactic community. And I say I speak to many groups now, and this is the same message that's coming through for those who are, like myself, who have direct contact with specific groups of ET.
So when you were lifted up on the table,
humanity, I'm sure.
When you were lifted up on the table when you were 3 years old, you said not only were you lifted up to a higher physical position, but you were conscious. What's the difference between being conscious and not conscious?
Being conscious and not conscious? Well, that's a very good question. My understanding is that everything is conscious. The fact that, the plants, the trees, the animals, the earth itself, all share that one conscious energy. And it is an energy. And that's the true life form throughout the universe. And we share that with everybody, with everything. So we are conscious, we are infinite. Our physical dies, but our consciousness continues. And when you realize that and the connection to nature, just simple connections, like I was speaking to my brother the other day in Spain. He's a retired aircraft engineer, and he was saying he'd got some beautiful butterflies flying in front of his property. And I said to him, why don't you ask the butterflies to come and land on your hands, so you can see them closely and see the colours? Well, he was a bit sceptic, being an engineer, and he said, right, I'll try it. So he tried it, he sat down, he tried it, and this beautiful butterfly came and flew and landed on his hand. And then he was just overwhelmed by it. And I phoned him up the day after, and he told me about it. And I said, well, go outside, see if you can do it again. So he went outside, and he sat down and asked the butterfly to come and land on his hand. It did, it came and landed on its hand. I said, well, why don't you ask it to go and get a friend and come back with another butterfly? So he did, so he asked him. So the butterfly flew off. It come back, it landed on his hand, and one landed on his head. And that's the connection of consciousness in relation to shared consciousness. Once you realise that, it opens up our whole horizon to who we really are and what consciousness is and how it can be used for, as I say, communication, for travel, for creation itself, co-creation even, by thought, by intention, by putting it out there. And these are the things that they've probably taught me. And so it's not just about the ETs, it's about the consciousness, the conscious energy of the universe. I think that's the real message. And we're being guided now by these higher conscious beings. And I'm sure through their evolution, they've been down here in these third dimensions. And now they've been elevated to higher levels. And they're helping us to transcend to those higher levels. So I think it's a fascinating time to be in this physical, to be alive at this time. And if I'm fortunate to see those changes, I'll be very, very happy indeed.
Tell us about conscious craft.
Conscious craft. Okay.
Conscious craft.
Right. I can tell you a story about conscious craft. I was travelling on the astral plane. Orton D came along. We communicated many times on one of their conscious craft. And on one occasion, Ort said to me, Kevin, why don't you create your own craft or build your own craft? I said, well, it's all right for you. I said, you've got... I said, why don't you travel further? I said, well, it's all right for you. You've got a craft. You've got D you travel with as a companion. I said, I'm just on my own. And how would I build a craft? I have no idea. A conscious craft. He said, well, you use thought and conscious energy to build a craft. I said, oh, is that all? He says, yes, use your own thought and use the conscious energy. I said, okay, then I'll try that. So the following evening I went to bed and I imagined a conscious craft. I thought about it. I tried to create this craft. Anyway, I was able to create a conscious craft. I was inside it. It had a small window and I was travelling through the universe, as it were. And I saw these, what I thought were stars flying by the window, and it turned out that they were galaxies. They were galaxies, not stars. So then I became a little bit fearful, and I decided to end the experiment, and I ended up back in my body. So the following night, because I didn't know where I was travelling, I thought I need to put some more thought into this. What I need a thought interface navigation system. I need a slightly larger craft so it's more comfortable, and I need a larger window. And then I need a destination of where I'm going to go and travel. So I looked at some star maps, and I thought about this during the day, and then the following evening I went to bed, I relaxed, I opened my mind, I thought about creating this conscious energy craft and then travelling, and I thought I would travel to Andromeda. I'd already planned a route, I'd already designed the navigational interface system, so I was off. And I got to Andromeda. I went round a planet there, it was a blue planet. I didn't go below the cloud line, and then I came back. So I was able to do that, and that's what they do. That's some of their abilities. But then on one another occasion, I hadn't had contact with the Council of 8 for 2 weeks. And they just weren't speaking to me at all. And I thought they'd abandoned me after all these years. So I created my craft again, and I went looking for them. I went to Andromeda first because I know that's where Orton D are from, and then I went elsewhere, looking all over the galaxy for them. I couldn't find them anywhere. I came back into my bedroom and entered my body. And as I did that, all 8 of the Council of 8 appeared in my bedroom in a physical form, or what appeared to be a physical form. I suggest I think it was probably a holographic projection. But they also had a full-size mothership portrayed in my bedroom. And I said to them, I've been looking for you all over, and I couldn't find you anywhere. I thought you'd abandoned me. And they said, yes, we know you were looking for us. That's why we are here. Now, again, that was another lesson that they'd given me in relation to creation using consciousness itself and conscious craft. So I did ask them to explain how all 8 could appear in my room at once with a full-size craft. They did give me an explanation in relation to space, time and dimension, which I didn't understand, and I still don't understand to this day. But they've got me to this position where I'm able to create a conscious energy craft, because we're really, truly conscious energy beings who are just having this physical for this short period of time. Our abilities are just tremendous, and we're not aware of this. But they will teach us all of us how to use these abilities to enhance mankind. I'd say a fascinating time to be alive, and hopefully I will see the change in our evolution.
What's the benefit of having a craft over just traveling yourself astrally throughout the cosmos?
That's a good question. I can obviously travel anywhere I want to go without a craft. I can't really see the benefits of having a craft itself. One thought I did have while I was in the craft, and if I'd have gone down to that planet through the cloud, would then if there were inhabitants of that planet, would they then see that as a UFO? And I'm wondering, I know that Orton D have these abilities. I know they all have these abilities. I know they have their physicals as well. So really, they're very similar to us, only the fact that they've been educated to a higher level and their actual vibrational frequencies of the physical is higher as well. And that allows them to have these extra abilities. It's like telepathic communication. We all have it. We don't tend to use it. How often do I think, I'll just phone my brother, and my brother phones me at the same time. We all have those. And that's really putting the thought out, the thought energy out there. He receives it without knowing it and then phones you. He thinks, I'll just phone my brother. And we all have those things, but we just don't develop them. Our psychic abilities, we don't develop them. We're kept in the dark on purpose, I think. I think the powers that be that do run our planet don't want us to know what abilities we can have. And what powers that we have, really, in relation to who we are.
Is your soul a human soul? Or does it originate from a planet?
No, my understanding is I'm pure human, 100%. My soul is human. I think I'm a very old soul and been educated over the years and volunteered to come back down to do this work. But no, I'm human. And I'm proud to be human. Yes.
Deborah, are you there? Do you have any questions?
I do. So, Kevin, often when you talk to ET experiencers, they deal with a lot of screen memories, right? So they don't remember their experience, and it doesn't seem like there was any of that with you. Do you know the reason for that?
Well, I think what they've done, they've educated me slowly over a long period of time with little sections at a time, and I've never been fearful of anything, I think that's why. They've always portrayed themselves to me as benevolent. They help me. You know, as you go up and down in life, you get problems, issues. I always ask for assistance and things, and they will guide me. And so I've never been in a position. I think some of the experiences that I've spoken to, they've been taken out of their body. The whole body's been taken up onto a craft. They've had experimental work done on them, and they're fearful. And I'm sure if that would have happened to me, I would have been fearful. But I've always embraced it and asked for more information. But I suspect that that's really my mission, is to help with this, facilitate this reveal. And as I say, if Orton D a few years ago hadn't have materialized in my bedroom and asked me to do this, I wouldn't have spoken out about it at all. My wife knew, my brother knew, and I was quite happy. I know that when my physical dies, I'll go back to my higher conscious being family, as it were. And although I don't look forward to death, still enjoying my physical here. But yes, I wouldn't have spoken about it. I would have just gone to my grave and just think that I'd enjoyed this physical experience down here. So, but now they've asked me to do it, I realise the importance of it, really. And it's only just a small part, but it's that, you can't complete the jigsaw without every piece. So, and I'd say I've met so many amazing people since I've been speaking out, and those that have their own contact with the same group that I do, and others. So just fascinating, really.
Do you know why they do experiments on some people?
No, I haven't really delved into it. I think they are collecting some of the species are collecting DNA for the hybridization process that they're working on. I do believe that very often we are seeded on different planets. So no, I don't have a full example of that. I know Barbara Lamb, I think she's an expert in that field, and she has a recent book out that explains all that, but it's not part of what they've taught me. And they've obviously kept me away from that particular side of it. And I do have the abilities. I've invited myself onto other craft where there's been meetings, and they've accepted me on the craft. Although I wasn't participating, but I was able to watch and be there. But when I left the meeting, I had no recollection of what was said. I had a group of 7 or 8 ETs in my home a few months ago. My dogs were barking in the middle of the night, and it was about that they were alerting me to something. So I went outside, I put the floodlights on to scare anybody away that was there, and then I let my dogs out and I walked out behind them. As I walked out, there was 6, 7, maybe 8 greys walking across my front paddock. So I wasn't quite certain what to do. So I called my dogs in because I didn't want them to attack them or anything. And then I thought, well, I'll just stand by the door and see what happens. I mean, the door opened by about 18 inches maybe. And then that was the last memory that I had. And then I went to bed and woke up the following morning thinking it was a dream. And then my wife got up and said, Kevin, do you realise you left the front door open last night? Unlocked, not fully open. And I always lock it before I go to bed. And then I had a memory come back of these 6 or 7 greys coming into my living room. And we all sat round and we had a meeting. But again, the memory was erased. I don't know what the meeting was about. But it was interesting that when I saw the greys walking across my front paddock, they walked with like a gait or a limp. It was a very strange movement. And I'd never seen that before. And when I met Terry Lovelace, and I know he met the greys at the Devil's Incident that he had when he was younger. And I said to Terry, is there anything unusual about how they walk? and he explained the same gate that I saw from them walking over my paddock. So from that point of view, I realised then that it wasn't a dream, that they had come in, we had a discussion, but they erased my memory. I don't know why.
That's it for my questions.
Oh. You're done? Okay. Sasha, your turn.
Well, I just go back to my own question about how to reconcile with the way the planet is governed, and to ask, is there some way that we can accommodate the people that are governing the planet with the needs of the planet and the other people? And what we get if we go to interpsychically, the inner patriarch, the dominator consciousness that everybody has at some level, its basic need is really just for safety and protection. That's all it is, safety and protection. And so we can strip away the excess and really see if we can meet people's needs for safety and protection, and then maybe we can have a reconciliation. That's my thought about it anyhow.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think that we can actually use our intent, our co-creation, our thought to manifest what we're wanting in relation to the ETs. And they are here to help co-create that. I know I wasn't to speak, I was asked to attend a Zoom meeting, and there were about 500 people on this Zoom meeting, and there's some major speakers, but they were all talking about conscious energy, about consciousness itself, and they all had connection to the ETs, but through consciousness, conscious energy. And the whole group, together collectively, there were 44 million globally of these people who have an understanding that the ETs are here, an understanding of consciousness, an understanding of intent, an understanding of all these things, and they're all working towards it. Just exactly what you said there. They're putting the information out there. We are changing that reality by thought. And I suspect that that this will continue to grow to where the government have to accept that we need a mandate protocol to receive the ETs, and the fact that our planet is dying, how much longer it's got in the present condition that it's in. I still think it's probably reversible at this moment in time, but if we leave it too much longer, then if the planet dies, we die. And the planet itself is conscious. It has conscious energy. We share that with our planet. So I think we're tackling this on different avenues, at different levels. There are all these different groups, the scientists, working towards it. And at some point, the politicians have got to listen to what the people are saying. And hopefully it will be sooner than later.
Do you think the planet will really die, or will it just be free of these humans that are acting like a bunch of fleas?
That's a good question. I'm hoping that the planet doesn't die. I don't think it will. I mean, the planet would survive anyway. If we died off, say, as a human species, then the planet would just regrow itself and come back to full life, and some new life would form. But we've been here for, tens of thousands of years, and we've developed to this stage. My ET guys tell me that we've reached this level of technologies in the past, and we've destroyed ourselves. They won't allow us to do that again. They will step in if we get to a point where we are going to use our nuclear weapons. But that's the only time they will step in. They would like to be invited as ambassadors. And I'm sure as more and more people speak out, this will become self-evident to our politicians themselves. And if the politicians want to participate and get re-elected again in relation to that, then they must address this issue, which has been hidden from us for 60, 70 years. And now's the time to move forward with this, both from the spiritual side and the physical side, with the assistance of the ETs.
Who has to do the inviting? Why can't we just invite them right here and now?
Right, okay. Well, I keep inviting them. If we as individuals keep inviting them, we as groups keep inviting them, then they have told me that the reveal will come from the people. They have tried with our governments time and time again, and they're not interested. So I suspect this growing movement in the spirituality where people are inviting the ETs to come here. I invite them every day. I want them to land on my backyard. I want to meet with Orton D in the physical and then record things like that, and then it will come from the people. And I know that they are showing more and more craft globally, and that's part of the process. And they told me that the reveal is a process and not a single event. So I said there are many working towards this, both from the spiritual side and from a political side, I suppose, yes.
Go ahead, Sasha. So, I've had an open invitation, and one time, we always wanted to land on the White House lawn. Well, one came in, actually they said, we're not going to land on your roof, it would make it collapse, we're just going to hover above it. So one came and hovered about 5 or 6 feet above I have a flat roof out here, like a deck.
Okay.
And it was conscious, not a sex, but the craft communicated with me, 6 feet in front of my eyes for about 20 minutes while I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone. It was just the most amazing thing. I don't know how to do that again. I would like to do that, but it was telling me, I said, okay, I'm going to take your picture. And it said, well, no, if you switch to picture mode, we're just going to blink out, so we're not going to let you take a photo. So that's interesting that Sandy got the photo, but it was still in the distant. I mean, this thing was just like parking a car right in front of me.
500 feet away, I think, somewhere like that. But again, I think that was part of a lesson for me and a lesson for her, So because I can't speak out about this, because some of the things I talk about are just so way out there without the support of Sandy. And as I say, she's aware that they are here, and she would like to meet with them as well. But if we all keep asking for them to show themselves and raise that vibrational frequency, then they are listening. They listen to your thoughts. They've demonstrated that to me, and very often we don't listen to the inner voice, and the inner voice very often may be a communication from them, maybe a channel. They've demonstrated that to me in the past. So I think it's just open up your heart, open up it with love, and invite them in, and we will do this from the people if the governments are not prepared to do it.
So what about your television show? Tell us about your show. What's it about?
It's what happened was I was invited onto it's a lady called Melissa Kennedy, and she has it's called the UFO Woman Show, and it's on WeBeamTV.com, which is a local small station in Tampa. I was invited on there with Edgar Mitchell, the co-author of this new book, Tap into Universal Energy. So we had a show about the book. I mentioned the previous book. And then after the show, the producer, John, he said, how would the three of you like to have a live TV show every Friday morning for an hour? So obviously we all jumped at the chance of doing that. And I think we've had several episodes now. And we talk about the ETs. We talk about UFOs. We talk about the paranormal. We talk about topics that are going on at the moment. And it's just a general conversation, really. But the ratings are growing. People are interested in the subjects we're talking about. And it's obviously it's to do with what's happening at the moment with the ETs. And I know Edgar, he's had 7 near-death experiences. I think 7 must be his lucky number. And each time he dies, he's sent back and say, you haven't finished your work yet, you have to go back, and they give him more information. And he retains so much information, it's unbelievable. So with his knowledge, his scientific knowledge. He was in the military for many years and worked on all the electronic equipment and everything, the radar and all that stuff. So he's very, very knowledgeable. And he reads books, and everything he reads he just retains. So between the three of us, we have a lively conversation about what we've been talking about today. Only we do it every Friday between 10 and 11, and then it goes out again at 8:30 in the evening. So, and I'm sure from that we'll develop a larger audience. And really, it's about all they've asked me to do is speak out, and if I've got any opportunity at all to speak out, I will speak out about my experiences. So, and I enjoy doing it. We have a laugh, and it's a serious subject, but we do enjoy doing it. So you'll have to tune in sometime, and you can watch all the past episodes. They're all recorded and put out on their website. Again, it's just www.webeamtv.com, and then scroll down to the UFO Woman show, click on that, and all the different shows come up there. And then all this stuff that we've covered today, if you go onto my website, kevinjbriggs.com, that's just Kevin with the letter J, Briggs.com, and you click onto events and media or more information. There's quite a few interviews on there, again, just discussing these topics that we're talking about today. If you want to refresh your memory for your audience, if they want to go and check that out, and we'll just take it from there. It's just really putting the information out, just like you're doing. You've been doing this for years, and I'm sure it helps in raising that vibrational frequency. In fact, I was talking to a Zoom group before I joined in here from Australia, and one of them mentioned your radio show, the Aquarian radio broadcast.
Who's that, you know?
It was a group I was asked to be on with Karen Swain, and they had a speaker there called Sue Walker. Sue was a guest speaker. I was just asked to join in, and I did. But one of the other members there, or the group that was attending, mentioned Aquarian radio.
Excellent. Thanks for the plug, everybody. Yeah, we love doing what we do. Sasha has a question. Go ahead, dear.
Well, it's just, if you were to channel your higher self, or like Viktor Frankl's idea, what do you see as where you're being drawn to, your penultimate contributions?
Well, what I've been drawn to, really, it's a lot of work that I'm doing at the moment, but I'm confident in the information that they've given me. I think it's important. There are many that have been working on this for their whole life. For 30 years, it's been their life's work. And I've come in at the last minute, and I've still got another. I've already chosen to leave this planet when I'm 95. So I've got a few more years left yet to keep talking about this, but hopefully I won't have to wait that long to see the change in our society and our evolution. And I think it's imminent. It's imminent. They haven't given me a timeline, but from all the other different people that I'm speaking to, everybody's aware something big is going to happen. They don't know what, but and I've been informed by 3 different mediums when I've been speaking on Zoom meetings that I have to be patient. The government aren't ready yet, but they will be. So I have to take that, and obviously coming from mediums, they have their own contact, again using conscious energy as the conduit. And don't forget, all these people, they've all been guided. I say I've got a group of 6, 7, 8 people now who I know some have got contact with the same group that I speak to, and I've had confirmation of that from them. So, it's the ETs that are working towards this as well. So, as I say, exciting times ahead for humanity, I'm sure.
So we're going to get the technology, like they have extreme longevity, they have time-space travel, teleportation. Are we going to be able to go to the stars? I heard you say that you could leave at 95, but I'm hoping that our whole planet is different, and that I might not leave at all, or might leave at 595 or 5,095.
Yes, I think, they have told me they're happy to share their technologies. I'm sure it will be drip-fed to us. I say the main concern and the main technologies will be to help with pollution. I'm sure they will give us energy sources that don't require us to burn fossil fuels. That will be a good start. And again, I'm probably like you, Janet. I'd be quite happy staying here. You know, the Earth is a beautiful place, and I like it here. So I'd like to stay.
Yeah, I like the Earth.
Explore further. There's some. Yes, I do. But if we
like to fix it up a little bit.
Yes, we just need to improve it. We need to improve ourselves and then improve the technologies so we can sustain our biosphere. But don't forget, we're spinning at about 1,000 miles an hour, and then we're travelling around I think the sun about 65,000 miles an hour, and then we're travelling through space over 500,000 miles an hour. We're on our own journey. We're in our own spacecraft. Our Earth is our spacecraft. It's a biosphere that keeps us all alive. And
well, they've taken me to other planets, showing me different systems of how we can change our society so it no longer does this to its citizens, because how we treat our citizens is appalling. So we're about to become equals in the cosmos and no longer treat it like this. This is ending. It's like a form of slavery. So we're about to have that change. Besides everything else, we have 1 minute left. Go and tell everybody how they can reach you and where you're going to be presenting next. Okay,
if they want to contact me, if they go on my website, www.kevinjbriggs.com, my email's on there, and I always respond to the emails. If they're interested in buying any of the books, Tap into Universal Energy and Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey, they're both available on Amazon, and that's about it, really. I'm open to speaking to anybody that wants to talk. Anybody that's got any questions, send me an email, and I will respond.
Excellent. And I did put all your information up on AquarianRadio.com. I will have the link for this show in a couple hours. It takes a while to download and upload. And I invite people to listen to it over and over again because there's a lot of information. Okay. So I want to thank you very much, Kevin, for coming on our show today. Thank you, Deborah DeFranco, for being our producer. Thank you, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin, for being my husband and putting up with me and coming on these shows with me. And I want to thank everybody. Our guest, Kevin. Yes. Kevin, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed chatting to you again. So thank you very much.
Lovely. Very lovely. Okay, much love and blessings. Aloha.